Industrial hemp sector evidences strong sustainability profile. Most of their adult lifetime in the investment markets, it's really satisfying to be amongst people who are trying to do things rather than shuffle paper and amplify policies. Why me? I was invited, and anything I can. It sounds the wrong way. I was invited, notwithstanding that the Trobe's about halfway to Sydney from where I live in Melbourne. But it's also, I think it's important to interact with the people who make a market, who are part of the production process. And anything I can share that's helpful is important. My own bio, my background is in law and economics. I worked in accounting, and then for investment banking I worked for a portfolio manager running Australian equity portfolios, and I had an early midlife crisis. I've had several probably, but my first one was manifested in a master's degree in environmental science, because at that time the capital markets were trying to address these externalities. And I was doing a lot of work in Asia, and I thought, is this really progress, what we're doing here? So this was about the rise of sustainability, and I decided to do a master's degree, and I started my own research business, specialising in looking at sustainability investments and impact investments. I sold the business 6 years ago, and now work for a number of my clients, helping them with product and so on. So that's the auspices I'm masquerading under today. Context. So I'm actually going to reorder the introduction to sustainability investment and the hemp opportunity on the basis that the first two are more established, dynamic and well documented. And I'll consider how I think they can inform the third. As I said, I'm not an expert in industrial hemp at all. Indeed, I was just thinking to myself, I probably haven't given a presentation at a conference where I know so little about the topic. But I am interested, and I'm here to learn more than tell. And as I said, I'm enjoying every consumable part of industrial hemp. So the perspective I've taken for today is to approach this as an analyst. If someone said to me, should we invest in this sector, what would be my analysis? So, and I do reinforce the caveat that my background is in institutional wholesale investment markets. The good news is, in impact investing, it's becoming more relevant, prevalent and participatory by retail investors. And as part of this, I'll talk about the pools of capital and the bottlenecks to attracting that capital, in my view. From afar, the industrial hemp sector evidences strong sustainability profile, and it seems outwardly relevant to impact investors. But the caveat here is it's not widely understood, and in fact I'd argue from outside that it's variously misunderstood. And I think we need to benefit or consider how to institutionalise this opportunity and the work you do. As far as impact investors are concerned, and I'll go through the next slide, I think or 2 slides on, about the rise of the ESG and impact markets. But I think we're at a point now, at least in Australia and certainly in Europe, that impact investors are those that are seeking some positive environmental or social outcomes. And there is a substantial pool of capital here. As the slide says, we need to understand and demonstrate the impact. These need to be quantitative. The market is very tired and jaundiced of having these claims made. And the industry has oversold and underwhelmed at the moment. So the irony here is people are looking for granularity in terms of impact. Nevertheless, it has to demonstrate a good investment proposition, and more particularly for small businesses and small industries, it needs to evidence good governance and transparency. This is critical for people. As non-participatory owners, they need to understand and appreciate the governance. And indeed, I would advocate that you're really looking for people who co-own the business, not shareholders, certainly not share renters. Some context. In my deep due diligence, I went to the website and looked at the key objectives of the Australian Hemp Council. And look, I'm just quoting from the website here. National gathering focus on unlocking the commercial and climate smart potential. But there's no mention in any of this, from my perspective as a representative and an investor in these, as addressing the capital needs and sources, and if and how these need to be addressed. And I think there's a strong role for I'm not lecturing or hectoring. I would like to see, as an analyst, a more prominent role by the association in terms of institutionalising here. I'll come to the idea of fragmentation in a moment. A quick journey, and I won't go through it in detail, through sustainability investment and the impact investment markets. There's nothing new in impact and ethical investing. It started in the 60s, as probably many of you know, and I won't say might be familiar with in case I profile people in an age-wise. We've certainly seen, and we're all aware of, anti-apartheid. Newberger and Berman, the New York firm, grew up on the basis of enabling investment around avoiding anti-Semitism. So the 60s and 70s and 80s was more about ethical investing, and you could pick your own definition, and people did. The 90s, where I became more familiar with it, was more socially responsible investing, known as SRI. Like everything in the investment industry, we are champions at acronyms. And this was the proposition of doing well by doing good, particularly when concerns about environmental impacts was being addressed and being raised. 2000s, we've seen a rapid uptake and interest. It's evolved from ESG to sustainable to impact investing. ESG, I don't like the term actually, and I've built a business around it. It's rules-based, it's compliance-based, uses screens, uses algorithms to create ratings. It's really using data to manipulate a definition, in my view. The other forms which I think are more relevant here are thematic investing, which is particularly big in Europe, risk-driven investing where sustainability is deemed to be a risk, and impact investing, which is certainly of interest to a lot of foundations and mission and faith-based investors. Caveat at the bottom, definitions aren't codified, which is part of the problem but part of the opportunity. Flexible, you can create your own definition, and people do. This does cause fragmentation. For what it's worth here, I've said the industrial hemp likely placed in the impact-driven market. Global capital pool. Look, it's big. But there's a danger in saying it's big. It's easy to sort of head north or head for the horizon. You can read the numbers: 1.57 trillion US dollars managed by firms in the managed impact investment space. Australia, which is probably more relevant, we have a very large market investing in sustainability. And I've quoted some figures there from the Responsible Investment Association. This includes all aspects of ESG, but I would note that ESG, people are becoming disenfranchised and they are moving towards a quantification of impact, which I think is an opportunity. The next slide briefly is some summary data from the ASX, and these are variously listed expressions of impact. The irony here is that many people don't see listed equity as an appropriate basis in which to invest in impact. There's a delicious irony for I suspect most people in this room. But nevertheless, there is a growing interest. The figures, anyone wants to see figures, happy to share them. The hemp opportunity, the last part of the triumvirate. The commercial applications, lots of choice, or lots, but are we spoiled for choice here? One of my observations is there are so many moving parts and there's so many apparent opportunities that I worry at the capacity to focus and to develop a particular outcome here, to act as a leader. It's easy to head for the horizon, but I think we need to be more granular in this process. And what I've done here is, this comes off the association website simply, is to segment the various representations made into aspects that would be relevant for impact investing in the environment, water, carbon, bioaccumulator, some of the challenges which I think need to be expressed. Investors are always cynical. They want to know where this could go wrong, of course. Health, agriculture, and product features. So there is this profile that looks really interesting. But as I said in the previous slide, we need to be careful that we're not trying to tick every box here. And insofar as actualising none. This slide briefly explains the investment off profile. Nothing new here. As I was saying to someone earlier, people have their own ways and I have my own way of analysing particular investments. And what I have said to a couple of people, the market does differentiate between agriculture and processing it, a la manufacture and so on. There's different pools of capital with different criteria and different expectations, and we can come to that. But so usual investment disciplines, but impact is seen as an attraction, even for those who aren't specifically looking for it, and that may not be relevant to this sector. it is something that people are paying attention to, and even if you're not a purposeful impact investment, it's the old story, would you rather provide positive impact or not? Of course you would, in my humble opinion. It's often a necessary but not sufficient condition. Some observations in my limited analysis to date. I've noted happily that there's considerable optimism in the commentary regarding the sector, and I think the author of these comments is in the audience. I've highlighted the word on the cusp, may propel, position well for the future, demand is growing. Optimism is a necessary condition, but I think we need to develop pathways as to how to manifest this. And one of the things is to determine and define the expansion ambitions. Capital will follow opportunity relentlessly, but I think we need to sort of consider what is the opportunity and express it in the terms that capital understands, rather than probably manifest everyone's ambitions. And please don't think that's a criticism. If I didn't believe in the opportunity myself and the optimism, I wouldn't hike out to La Trobe.
That's a long way.
It is from mine. Capital requirements. Again, for what's the commercial outcome here? Look, the impact perspective will draw it to the table, but it's got to walk away with an investment perspective, particularly professional investors. But that doesn't exclude endowments and mission-based investors. I've got 1 minute. Formal bullet points. Claims of sustainability must be quantified and promoted. This is my big thing. If we're going to play this card, we must play it precisely and appropriately. Be transparent, be quantitative. You can get it wrong, but make people be clear on what it is you're trying to promote and the benefit. Supply chain and value add need clarity. I'm confused as to how the whole supply and demand works, and I talked to a chap last night about a platform. And where's the value proposition in all this? I think that needs to be really clear so that investors can be drawn to the optimal opportunity. And as I said, there are different pools of capital, in my view, between growing and processing. The industry would benefit from being more visible and credible. This is my point about institutionalising itself. Organised so that initiatives are cumulative and additive, rather than competitive. The range of applications is impressive, but they don't provide an investment case of themselves. To some ways, people can just shrug their shoulders and walk away. And something I spoke about last night at the drinks, or the get-together rather, the benefit of sector leaders and champions. In my humble opinion, the way to draw attention to this price is demonstrate the proof case. And that enables people. There's this saying in the capital markets, there's many sayings, but one of which is pioneers get scalped. So the merit in going first is you get handed your head. If you get it wrong, there's this asymmetry and risk. Make it easy for investors to follow would be my message, so that you are reducing the risk of them failing. That's it. Yep.
That's great. Thank you very much.